It's finally time to show you my Piranha aquarium. During this video I'm going to be taking you on the journey of building my Piranha aquarium and providing some information and some facts along the way. But before we do that, I'm just going to give you a quick recap of where we're up to, as we'll be starting with the background and the wood hardscape already in place. There is another video where I'll show how I built the aquarium background in more detail, and I'll leave a link in the description for that video. So before we go any further, let's have that quick 30-second recap. And that brings us to the beginning of the build, and we're starting off with adding a layer of soil mixed with a little bit of organic compost. I used a 50-50 mix of soil and compost and laid it in it at 1 inch deep. This is to provide all the early nutrients for the plants in the tank. As time goes by, all the broken down fish waste and any broken down leaves or old plants, decaying plants, will help provide fertilisation as the tank matures. Next I added 1 inch of sand on top of the soil and compost. This would provide the substrate for the tank build, and believe it or not, only cost me around £10 for a big tank like that. I actually used horticultural sand for the substrate, as not only was it cheap, but I also wanted to create a natural looking riverbed effect in the aquarium. I thought the colour and the different grain sizes worked really well and added a natural look. Also, as it's used for planting and gardening, it means it's inert and free of any chemicals. Now, it's the first time that I've used this sand, and I've also found that it's perfect for helping the plants grow, as it keeps the substrate aerated, and the sand also doesn't become too compact, which also provides many other benefits in itself. I may do a video on that in the future. Now, before we move on to the planting, I thought I'd share the story of how I come across building this aquarium. So it was just a normal day, and I was giving a friend a lift to an appointment, and whilst they were in the appointment, I decided to have a quick look in the fish shop, not intending to buy any fish, but just to kill a bit of time. That's when I saw the baby piranha, and quickly, without thinking, decided to purchase them. I decided to buy 10 piranhas, knowing that I would likely lose a few. Piranhas are a shoaling species, and it's better to buy as many as you can. I'd recommend buying at least 6, but more if you can, as they'll very often pick off the weaker of the shoal in the early months. That being said, I still have all 10. 9 months later, whilst I'm editing this video, although this seems to be a rarity, and be prepared to lose a couple early on, whilst the fish establish their hierarchy. You shouldn't be too disappointed if the fish do kill a couple off, as this is the fish's natural way of life. Although I would add lots of wood and decorations to provide many hiding places to help reduce aggression, and feed 2 to 3 times a day in the early months. This doesn't have to be meat or live food, it can be a simple quality fish flake alongside a good frozen food as well. I personally use prawns, high protein fish and hikari Viber bites to supplement all the vitamins and nutrients that they need. Upon getting the fish settled at home, I started the task to find a forever home for them. After spending a few weeks looking for the tank and having a limited budget, I finally found a second-hand tank in excellent condition. It also came with filters and lights. This came with its own set of challenges though. Oh no! And when getting the tank home, we quickly realised that we weren't going to be able to get it into the living room. So in order to get the tank into the living room, I had to knock down the wall over the door. Now I had to do that, as in front of the door in the hallway is the stairs, so I wasn't able to lay the tank down and push it through. The only way to get it in was to stand it up tall and slide it through that way. At this point I took a break from the aquarium project and set about redecorating the house and repairing the wall over the door. During this period I created the 3D background for the Piranha aquarium and also did the majority of the building work on my new fish house. Now let's get back to the tank build. Ready for planting now. Soil's down, sand's down, background's done, and the hardscape is built into the background, which you can see in the separate background video. I'll just touch a little bit more on the hardscape. Now the idea for this tank was to try and simulate the bank of a river, not only adding realism but plenty of cover for the fish. I really wanted to see as much natural behaviour as possible, or at least as much natural behaviour as possible in the constraints of a fish tank. This brings me on to tank mates. I decided to keep various tetras as tank mates with the piranhas, one of which being the amber tetra. I hoped that the plants and the roots will provide sufficient cover for the tetra and the piranha to coexist in the same tank. As I'm creating this video, there are a couple of small tetra that seem to have survived, which indicates the idea of the tank seems to be working. When I say survived, I mean new baby tetras. And that brings us on to the plants. I am going to show you which plants I started with, although I did make some changes down the line, as I wanted the tank to take its own course and its own natural look. Now I'll quickly show the plants that I used and the names, because I'm not going to try and pronounce them. So let's quickly run through the plants and their names. So, although I'm not trying to create a biotope, I have selected all plants from the Amazon River, as piranhas can be found all over the Amazon River and other South American river systems such as the Orinoco River system. Now moving on to planting. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to try and imitate a river, so with that in mind I planted most of the plants along the back across the 3D background. I didn't take too much care with the planting and just scattered them along the back with the aim to allow the plants to find their own way over time. As you'll see a little bit later on in the video, I do decide to remove some of these plants. Staying with planting, I also decided to include some house plants to grow immersed with just the roots sat in the aquarium water. I did use wood to attach them to make it a little bit easier. And it's also extremely important to thoroughly clean off the roots before putting the plant into your tank. This is to avoid polluting the water column with toxic fertilizers. Before placing the roots into the water, try to make sure the roots look something like this. I decided to add house plants for a couple of reasons. Obviously they look great, but also they will provide natural filtration. Although I do have 2 large canister filters running, the plants would help maintain pristine water quality. This works so well as fast growing plants like the Monstera quickly absorb nitrates from the water column. These images are from around 6 weeks later, and I did add an extra Monstera as the price was too good to miss. I added the new Monstera to the right hand side of the tank. At this point all the plants are settling well and have made the transition to water quite well. Now I'll quickly run over the house plants that I've used. I think this is Philodendron Red Emerald, but I can't be totally sure. Then here I've got the butterfly palm. It's not one that's often used in aquariums, but seems to be doing okay. I did lose a few leaves, but some seem to be settling in nicely. If you would like to use a palm, I would use the parlour palm. The parlour palm is known to work better in this sort of setup. I opted for the butterfly palm at the time, as there was only really small parlour palms available. I also added a small pot of alocasia that I had, as this is well known to work in this setup. And then finally, the Monstera, which we already know about. Back inside the tank, all that was left was to add a few extra details. This included scattering some gravel along the substrate to give that riverbed feel. And as you can see there, I added a few patches of hairgrass, what I had left over from another tank. I wasn't aiming to create a carpet, just add a bit of extra realism to the tank, as you'll often see little patches of grass at the bottom of a river. And finally, the final touches before adding the fish. So for the final touches, I'm just going to add a little bit of extra realism, and I'm adding leaves, dried leaves, and a few botanicals and twigs. I'm adding these, as you'll often see, dried leaves falling from trees and twigs at the bottom of a river. And as you can see, I've also added various dried palm leaves as well. I couldn't tell you exactly what the leaves are, as I bought them from a reptile shop as tropical leaf litter and a mixture of different leaves. Now, setting up a tank like this might not be to everybody's taste, but I like to keep my tanks natural and provide a home for the fish, not just a tank. I think setting up a tank in this way brings out the best in the fish, and you get to see a lot more natural behaviour. The roots, leaves and plants provide plenty of cover for the fish, and I've already seen a few baby ember tetra appear. All that's left now is to add the fish. I don't have a lot of footage of adding the fish, so I will just add a little bit of footage of the fish and the names. And there's no better place to start than with the red-bellied piranhas. Now, moving these wasn't the easiest job, so I did use a plastic jug rather than a net, as I was a bit concerned that they may be able to bite through the net. Now, some of you already may know that I've had these fish since babies, and it's the second time that I've moved them, and they don't move too well. They get quite stressed, but they soon come round and start recovering. And here they are, just an hour or so later. As I mentioned earlier, I did add a few tank mates, around 20 ember tetra and 10 neon tetra, all of which seem to be doing well so far. And I almost forgot, I also added this pleco. I'm not going to try and pronounce the name of it. Now here's the finished tank, and we'll move on and show you the tank around 6 to 8 weeks later now. So here we are, 6 or 7 weeks later, and I'm going to go through what's gone well and what's not gone quite as well. But overall, I'm quite happy with how the tank's going. So we can see here the house plants are doing really well. Monstera's going quickly, lots of new leaves. We've got the alocasia there as well. It's popping through. There's only a small piece that I put in. Got these extra lights to help with growth. I've even put light shades on my aquarium lights. We've got the red emerald philodendron going. A few new leaves up there at the top. Get a bit closer. Another monstera. And then we've got this new palm to add on. Yeah, so that's a parlour palm that I'm going to be adding a little bit later. Anyway, moving on to the tank. The one thing that you'll see instantly is the amount of snails that I've got in here. That's something that I'm working on rectifying. So a couple of ram's horn snails must have made their way into the tank, and obviously due to the heavy feeding of the piranhas, their numbers are exploding. So I do have a little trap what I'm using to remove a good amount every day for the last couple of days. We can see here the tetras are looking quite well. Piranhas are hiding right at the back there and getting big now. Yep, so these big fierce piranhas, they're all cowering at the back of the tank. Now I'm here with the camera. The one's come out there, let's have a look at that one. You might be wondering why I've added this palm leaf. Well, I've added that in to add a bit of cover for the fish, for the piranhas. As I'm told that I may start to see some breeding behaviour soon as they're approaching 12 months old. So it's just a bit, the palm leaf is just a bit of cover. I actually think it looks nice as well though. I do like, I've said a few times now, I do like to make my tanks look as natural as possible. And nothing in the river, you'll see a palm leaf lay on the bottom of the river. You can see one of the baby embers here. Can't seem to focus in on it very well. Yeah, there's two here, two baby embers. Sorry I can't focus very well on them at all. They are only very small though. Yeah, so up to now, they're all living peacefully together. I think we might have lost the odd tetra here and there, but that's to be expected. But the vast majority are definitely still there, and a few more by the looks of it now. You can see one hiding at the back there. He's just coming out now. Neon's doing nicely. They soon shoot off into the roots when they see the piranhas. Yeah, so one of the things I'm a little bit disappointed about is the lack of plant growth. Yeah, they all seem a little bit too delicate for the piranhas, as they quite easily just pull them up. I've removed the Amazon swords as they were constantly getting pulled up. This one's doing okay. Yeah, this one is Brazilian pennywort, I think it's called. And this can feed out of the water column, so it doesn't necessarily need to be rooted. As the root did get broken on this, but it's continued to grow. So this one, yeah, I'm quite happy with this one. Piranhas are getting ready for meal time now as well. You can tell that they're looking hungry. Not quite sure whether to come out or hide. I guess they don't know whether I have food for them or not. I think they're definitely expecting food though. House plants are doing really well. Because you can see that, if you can see the roots there, they're climbing along the background at the back. And they're feeding really well and growing really fast. But not only that, they're pulling out all the excess nutrients in the water, which is great for the fish and the overall health of the aquarium. But yeah, that's about it. I am quite happy with how it's going, especially with the fish. The fish are doing really well, all of them, piranhas and the tetras. Yeah, the fish are coexisting really well. And if I'm honest, I really think that the piranhas like the tetras being there. I think it provides them an element of comfort, and we definitely see more active behaviour from them. As we know, in nature sometimes a shoal of smaller fish can often signal to other fish that a predator may be lurking. So I definitely think with the piranhas being so timid, I think these shoals of tetra definitely help provide an element of comfort. So if you do decide to get some piranhas, from my experience up to now, I would definitely try some tank mates, but just make sure that there's plenty of cover for them all. I think that's the key to success. Moving forward, I'd like to, like I mentioned earlier on in the video, add some more greenery and definitely clear up the snail problem. I'll be posting an update on the tank in the future, so I hope you can join me for that. Anyway, that's the end of the video, and I'm going to leave you with a few more images and a little bit of information and a few tips to help anybody get started who may be considering getting piranhas of your own. Anyway, thank you for watching, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video.